Welcome to the Stoic Thunder podcast, taking an ancient philosophy for a 21st century test drive, learning on the way. Happy New Year to you all, and however you define happiness, I wish you it in abundance. Joined a gym yet? Set some health and wellness goals? Signed up for unicycle lessons? Millions use this arbitrary day to springboard our largely positive goals for the rest of the year. Arbitrary in that really any day is just as useful to redefine our path. But with the not-so-distant memory of the overindulgence and, depending on how you celebrate Christmas, the expected and you might say well-earned inert state, the new year harkens the return of normality and structure. Start afresh, turn over a new leaf, say goodbye to the old. I may sound cynical, but I'm actually a big fan. It reminds me how we as humans, in theory, if not always in practice, are striving to better ourselves. My resolution is a big one. I want to eradicate, for the most part, the fearful aspects of my personality. Whoa. There's not an example I can think of regarding what I deem to be the negative parts of myself, where fear is not a huge factor, and more to my shame, cowardice. I'm not afraid to say it. I have balanced the experience of fluctuating mental health over the years, overcoming it, stressful life events, dealing with them, and of course the ever-fascinating complexities of neurobiology and how genetics and environmental issues, and of course dietary issues, all play their part. Between the summer of 2007 until late 2012, I suffered with OCD. A type without outwardly noticeable compulsions, but devastating nonetheless. The time between first experiencing it, self-diagnosis, and finally the treatment, largely down to my own reasoning and mental restructuring, if you will, seemed like an eternity. And yet it feels like another lifetime ago. I don't think I've ever given myself the credit for healing myself, and to have come through it without destructive coping mechanisms, none of which I would blame anyone for utilising. And yet here I am calling myself a coward. I slayed a metaphorical dragon, and yet fear still hinders me. Now, a healthy amount of anxiety keeps you on your toes and, well, alive. And I certainly have my pressure points when it comes to the good old-fashioned, heart-pounding, pins and needles coursing through your body lizard brain type of experience. Insidious cowardice is what I'm talking about here. OCD had given me a front row, surround sound, high-def experience of my diminishing grey matter, the constant assault on my amygdala, the literal fear disease. That's not a medical term, by the way, just what I guess would be its tagline for me. So I've been through the ringer as far as this emotion goes, but it's found its way back in unexpected ways. Through consumption. Stoicism has taught me so much about the management of negative emotions, and I've added to my arsenal of strategies to become who I am. But I'm not who I'm meant to be yet. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe one reaches a pinnacle of self-perfection, then that's it. Boom, trophy, done. The idea that we are ever evolving, our desires, our goals, and our continuing educational journey through life, interwoven with our daily experiences, makes up this multifaceted life and what makes it so wonderful. I'm not the same person I was last year. Hell, I'm not the same person I was last week. Some changes and developments are subtle. Others are driven by inertia, but stacked up in a measured way, you'd be surprised at how far you may have come. My greatest fear is not living up to my potential, not for others, for myself, although the effects it may have for my family are a huge factor. In one of my favourite movies, Little Women, Susan Sarandon's character, Marmee, the matriarch to 4 wonderfully different girls, tries to instill in them the idea of personal reflection and to nurture their individuality and to cultivate what makes them unique. It goes quietly mentioned later on in the film that Marmee and the girl's father are transcendentalists. Amy, the youngest daughter, and so wonderfully precocious you could just eat her up, is lightly chastised by Marmee when she is fascinated and swoony over her sisters and what she sees as their colourful, social and wonderfully fulfilling love lives. You are too intent on reshaping your dear little nose than in fashioning your character, Marmee says, as she pulls an old-fashioned wooden peg off her tiny and rather adorable tip. This line always made me laugh, but this time I realised how much of a comment it is on our desire to make superficial changes. Don't get me wrong, wanting to be attractive is not a bad thing, but when it becomes an obsession, it's likely that the other parts of your personality will go unobserved and underdeveloped. But it also led me to wonder what other kinds of distractions that feed the surface only exist. Temperance, one of the Stoic virtues, is a way to remind you that overindulgence in anything can be destructive. But I'm not talking about gluttony or perhaps carnal pleasures, but in some ways our entertainment. We work hard, we want to enjoy our hobbies and our recreational activities. I'm talking more specifically for me about visual media, film, television, gaming, and social media. Social media in particular is designed to keep us occupied. Its dopamine-affecting ways are well documented. And so, for that particular reason, we often find it difficult to curb our use of it. I adore films, music, and art, and they all have their place in my life, but not as a means to delay what must be done, including my own understanding of them, hiding behind what's known instead of engaging in new ideas and approaches that spark my curiosity, not just as a way of passing time. Stephen Pressfield, in his wonderful book, The War of Art, describes these activities as resistance, a more combative term to describe their use in our procrastination. But he notes that ultimately, resistance is fear, not laziness or apathy. And who the hell wants to feel fearful? I'm sick. I'm sick of hiding from my intellect. I'm tired of living a life half-nourished. I've never really considered myself to have any vices, but I guess I was wrong. I am both hostage and captor. Or, to put it more optimistically, I am both the patient and healer, because I can fight against this. I've known this about myself for a long time, and although I always knew in some ways that fear fed this resistance, I was reminded about my past attempts to overcome it and was dismayed. The easier path, the road less travelled, however comforting, are for me a route to only being half awake, half aware, and half alive. Do your duty, challenge yourself, for yourself, in whatever shape that takes for you. And with that, here's a reminder from Seneca. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult.